Donald, that he would need permission prior to the event through the relative court officer, whoever's in charge, to obtain that permission. The January 28th appearance cost him his job. He lost his job because of that, by way of explanation. So
I'm not following what happened on the 21st.
Both of them, he showed up on time, ready to go. He had a phone. He's not allowed to have the phone. And that was the rub. And he wasn't willing to give up the phone because he wanted it available for emergency purposes, and he was willing to leave the phone with the court officer should he get an emergency phone call regarding his child, again, who's 3 years old and is autistic.
Is there a mother? Was the mother home with the child?
Yes, Your Honor, but she does not drive or have a license.
It was just for emergency, that's all, Your Honor. I think what happened was he could have probably gotten permission in advance had he known from the court officer for an emergency situation. He just didn't know that he couldn't have a phone there.
We knew on the 28th when he came back. Why did he bring it back to the 28th?
Because I was told to ask the court officer, so I did exactly what I was asked to. I was just wanting to follow.
How did you get here?
I'm sorry, excuse me?
How did you get here?
I drove.
Why didn't you put the phone in the car?
Because that would defeat the whole purpose of emergency contact, Your Honor.
Why didn't you ask, you got here, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And am I right that in the very beginning, they saw that you had a phone?
Yes.
Did you ask, can I put my phone in the car?
They advised me to do it, but I advised them that I have an autistic son that needs medical attention at any given moment. And I asked them, even if they were to give them, I could even give them my people a family emergency contact number, like one of their work phones or something. They didn't want to compromise. They said to talk to the probation. I did exactly that. I talked to probation. Probation told me to ask the court officers. I did exactly that. They said that I can't come in without not having that. So I told them I can't give up my phone.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. Here's the thing. What do you want to say, Ms. O'Donnell?
So Josiah did appear both on the 21st and the 28th for the court work program. On the 21st, he did appear. I received a very long note from the court officer stating that not only was he not dressed appropriately for the weather, but he had the phone on him, and the court officer advised him that he didn't have his phone. I called Josiah, told him that the main issue was, again, he needed to be dressed appropriately to work outside, and also the phone issue. I told Josiah that he needed to tell the officer of his situation, and that if the officer told him he couldn't have his phone, then he couldn't have his phone. And then he did appear on the 28th, it sounded like. He was told, he tried to, according to the officer, I was told he tried to hide the phone on his person. It was found on his person when he went through the metal detector. Court officer told him to put it in the car. He went to his car and he did not return, is what I was told.
Mr. Zavala.
He didn't, you didn't bring it through security.
Okay.
No, Your Honor, I showed them and provided my phone right there at the camera.
Mr. Zavala,
Yes, Your Honor.
do you know if they let you have phones in jail?
No, Your Honor, they don't.
I know.
They provide you with one for emergency or for access.
Well, we could do it that way if you want. If you want to go to jail instead of doing the court work program, then you'll have a phone available for emergency. I'll be happy to do that for you. We could have you serve a weekend in Trenton, and you won't have to do the court work program.
It's also important to note the court work program is a jail alternative.
Right,
program.
that's what I'm trying to tell them nicely. You're making this hard.
Right. Perhaps, Your Honor, Mr. Zavala can get somebody.
I am understanding if your child particularly has autism. I really am. I'm not understanding is the way you've handled this. You should have told them before and you didn't dress appropriately. Had you come in here and explain this to me? Let me finish. Did he ever tell you about his son having autism before?
He told me that he had a sick child, that he was the emergency contact for his son, so that he needed to be contacted. I wasn't aware of who was with his son while he was at court work program.
You're just kind of being defiant, it seems like. Right?
Perhaps we can work out a solution so that you can take care of your responsibilities and have somebody on standby emergency.
Can I speak, Your Honor?
Sure.
Thank
be
you.
careful, please.
I do want to note with the court that I did comply with all court fines and fees. All that is paid in full as of yesterday. I had to take a loan to be able to pay that off as well.
And you lost your job on the 28th.
I lost my job on the 28th due to the fact that they didn't want to compromise with the timeline that you guys
want
had.
everybody to work around your schedule. Where do you work at?
I don't work anymore.
Where were you working?
I was working at TLC.
TOC. What's that?
It's a transport that they were doing with Ford over there on Gibraltar Road.
I'm understanding if you have an autistic son. We're not overseers. It's the way you handle it. I mean, it really is. You didn't dress appropriately. You didn't tell anybody. You didn't. Now you're blaming the court seemingly for you losing your job. Nobody made you go out here, as far as I know, and commit this offense.
No, yeah.
See, your lawyer's good. Because he knows that I don't want to hear nonsense. I mean, I'll give you every benefit, but I don't want to hear nonsense. Was he disrespectful with the court work program personnel?
If you would like to read the letter that.
I don't need to read the letter. You just tell me what they said and paraphrase it.
Yeah, they were not happy with him. They said that he didn't seem to understand that he couldn't have it. He was very upset with them. The court officer had asked him if he had a sick son at home, and Josiah had told him that he wasn't a doctor, so he couldn't tell him if his son was sick or not. Based on the letter, it seemed the court officers were not very happy with him.
You want to be defined, right? I mean, I don't understand the way I'm not saying all, I'm not saying most, I'm not even saying it's a strong minority, but the way some people want to handle things, I don't understand it. It's just a further reflection of what we have going on. There seemingly is this epidemic of divisiveness, this belief that we don't need to listen to what somebody says, that we can do what we want to do when we want to do it, and everybody else should think it's okay, and if they don't, it's their problem, not mine. You didn't handle it right. You wanted to get smart with it. And nobody to blame but yourself. Now you want to blame them. Let me tell you something, Mr. Zavala. I could be so understanding, and even with the record that's replete with felonies, I'd still be understanding. But all these things go hand in hand, son. They go hand in hand. No respect for authority, thinking that we're larger than life, thinking nobody's going to tell us what to do. It's the court's fault that you were carrying a concealed weapon. It's the court's fault that you've got multiple felonies. It's the court officer's fault they won't let you have a phone. It's the court's fault that you lost your job. Hey, listen. I don't know what to tell you. What I would do if I was you right now is I'd figure out every state prison in this state and I'd go drive around it. I'd just circle it 27 times. And I would then ask yourself, how bad is it right now driving around it? And whatever answer you come up with, multiply it by 4,000, because that's where you're going. That's where you're going to end up. That's where you're going to end up. You're destined, you're hell-bent on going to prison. That's what your record tells me. Well, I know you got excuses, but this is not the court's fault. That's what I mean. This little issue we have It's the teacher's fault. It's the police officer's fault. It's the probation officer's fault. It's the judge's fault. It's my employer's fault. It's the government's fault they're not giving me enough money. It's everybody else's fault. We don't want to take responsibility anymore. Then we have to acknowledge, we have to admit, we have to check ourselves and say, could it be me? No, 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 it can't be me. I don't make mistakes. I don't make mistakes, right? You got yourself in a predicament. Now you want to blame everybody else. I have some guy in here yesterday complaining. He's showing about as much respect for a police officer as I probably would if I had an intruder come into my home. Multiple felonies. Every time things are getting better, he says, I get pulled over. You're speeding. And then you proceeded to resist and obstruct an officer. That's what we got going on. There's no, we act like all these societal problems require, and I listen to people on TV talk about them, right? That they require this deep thinking, this deep-rooted thinking as to how we're going to solve the societal problem that it's really not that deep. It really isn't. I could have probably devised a plan when I was a sophomore in high school. I don't understand. I just don't understand this. Look at this, right? Then you go out here, the judge is mean, the judge doesn't understand. Judge understands. Judge really understands. Let's start over.
Thank you, Judge.
Hang on, let me finish. Because he's going to understand at some point that nobody in the criminal justice system is his enemy. His only enemy is he, himself, and him. Those are your enemies. Those are the ones causing you to get yourself in deep trouble. Because you don't get it. I'm not going to assess any costs because he lost his job, because he got this charge, because it was required that he go on the court work program instead of jail. You're going to do 4 hours of community service, and you're going to comply with the rules, and they're going to be told that since he has a child, if he gets you proof that you're satisfied with, that his child suffers from a disability, I want him to be able to carry the phone. However, you'd like to find out that you're using the phone for any purpose, texting, phoning, or otherwise, other than an emergency involving that child. When you're caught, bring your toothbrush, bring 90 pair of underwear, and then that's where it's going to end up. Do we understand one another?
Sir, yes, sir.
Good. No costs. These are 2 technical violations. I'm going to keep him on probation. Defendant to serve 4 hours community service by March the 20th. Stop being your own worst enemy, Mr. Zavala.
Thank you, Judge.
Life will be a lot more pleasant.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Honor.
Thank you.